Hello, everyone. I'm excited to see all these names in the participant list. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Jerome Scriptunis. I am co-presenting with Dr. Margaret McGladrey, Photo Voice for Youth and Community Development. I want to ask you to consider this, a takeaway that we'll repeat at the end. Photo Voice speaks truth to power. What we are going to talk about and share with you shows how that is possible in a good way for positive youth and community development. I run an organization called Youth Time Banking. You have copies of the slides that Liz may send out a link in the chat so that you can look through this more closely as you like. And there's some links embedded in the slides that will take you to web pages giving you more information about Youth Time Banking. Okay, orientation for Photo Voice. Photo Voice had its origins through the work of Dr. Caroline C. Wang and Marianne Burris in about 30 years ago, around 1992. Photo Voice is a participant-led method that involves community members in leading projects to identify, represent, and enhance their community through a specific photographic technique. What we love about Photo Voice is that part in bold, participant-led method. That resonates with co-production, it resonates with family voice and choice, it's aligned with TCOM principles and values that we'll perhaps talk about a little bit later. But it is bringing capability to people who do not have position power. Photo Voice has these three goals. It asks us to reflect on community strengths and concerns. Now, those of you who were at the TCOM conference last week, I think would see the clear alignment there with TCOM. It asks us to conduct discussions and reviews of photographs and videos to increase awareness. And I urge you to notice that this increase in awareness is not just for others, it's also for ourselves. We think we know what is going on, and we certainly do in our community, and that is augmented through the participation in a Photo Voice project. We reach decision makers and funders. There's a call to action at the end, and you'll see how that can be tremendously meaningful to the participants. Photo Voice in youth development. So why youth development? My organization works with youth. Youth are typically people who do not have a lot of power. They do have tremendous potential for building strengths, making social connections, and contributing to the community. Models like Photo Voice and co-production urge us to take advantage of what in Youth Time Banking we refer to as R, Youth R. That's the assets, resources, and energy of people who are not always included and yet have a power to move the needle to improve things. The activities of Photo Voice include selecting your topic, taking pictures, talking about what the photos mean to you.
Agreements with. To keep their agreements with me.
Creating exhibits and presenting these photos in the exhibit to people and having them speak for themselves. That's the Photo Voice part, that it's hopefully inarguable that you're showing reality to someone, and reality that you either want to enhance because it's good and you want more of the good thing, or something that's a concern that you would like addressed. In the approach that we took, I worked for the most part of this year with 6 groups on a Photo Voice project. And we started the year with training from Dr. McGladrey in January. She is our photo voice consultant. We are her student practitioners, I guess. And you're seeing what we were able to accomplish, 7, 8, 9 months down the road. So this is an accessible approach for community organizations, nonprofits, people who work with youth and families. And the approach that we used was that we had a facilitator, and that was me. We had coaches and leaders with the local groups, some of whom are joined with us on the session. I recognize the names from Ocean County, New Jersey, and Maryland, and representatives from East Africa. And then you have the participants who want to make a change in their community. Photo Voice draws on some work attributed to Erving Goffman's work and book from, I think it was 1974. So that goes back about 50 years, right? On frame analysis or framing. And as part of the training to introduce to the people who are participating, who largely they're hearing about it for the very first time. It's new to them. We talk about how we frame something influences, of course, how others will see it. Do you wish to comment here, Dr. McGladrey, on some fine points about framing?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Jerome. And I will say here too, I'm going to put out in the chat a link to the frame analysis book that you should be able to access online by Erving Goffman. And the other thing I'll say here, just by way of introduction and hello, it is just so gratifying here after doing the training and train the trainer for youth time banking back in January. And also, I want to point out that the inspiration for this collaboration came from me meeting with Ken McGill at the last TCOM conference. He came to my presentation on how we used Photo Voice for a community health assessment for the local health departments here in Kentucky. And Ken said, this is so perfect for an organization on which I'm the board, Youth Time Banking, let's make it happen. And here we are a year later with the amazing progress and development that Jerome has described. So taking a look here at the slide, as Jerome said, Erving Goffman, who is the social psychologist who also wrote the book on stigma, so that tells you a little bit about kind of his approach and the ways that he thinks. What the frame analysis tells us is that the frame influences the choices people make about how to process an issue. So think about this in terms of as you're holding up your camera to your world around you, your reality around you. When you hold up that viewfinder, you're making choices about what aspects of your reality and your lived experiences fall inside the frame of your viewfinder, what's outside the frame, and also what's in the foreground and what's in the background. So a picture doesn't just represent what your reality actually looks like, it's your curated view from your own frame of your viewpoint and what you've just decided to include in the frame and what you've decided to exclude and what you've decided to foreground and to background. That's a form of power, right? And I always think about it in Photo Voice as cross-cutting in two ways. One, it's a form of empowerment for, as Jerome said, the young people whose voices are often not heard at policymaking tables, especially around community development and economic development. So framing is a form of power for folks who don't normally have a seat at the table to show their realities to folks who do create that table, right? So it's a way to show my point of view from a position of perhaps marginalization to people who don't share that same point of view or perspective in a way that documents its reality, that this is my lived experience. It may not be what you see. One of my colleagues in a local health department says, my view out my front door is not the same as your view out your front door. door in the same kind of community? How can we use photo voice and framing to help share the perspective of folks who might normally not be at the table? So that's one way in which framing is a form of power, is a form of empowerment, of bringing perspectives to the table that might normally not been seen. But framing is also a form of power in terms of the responsibility that comes with it, right? So when we're making decisions as the photographer about what's in and what's out, what's foregrounded, what's backgrounded in our images, we are taking our own view of that reality and giving it more power, more credence as we share that image in other kinds of contexts, right? Especially if we're saying that this picture represents my community in some way, then it takes on this kind of power that requires us to work and behave ethically, right? And that's kind of the next topic here, is taking this kind of idea of power, framing as a great responsibility and a form of power.
Thank you, Dr. McGladrey. Exactly. One of the other foundational elements of photo voice is photography ethics, and as we will later look into dialogue ethics. And so what we do some practicing and explaining with the participants that we want them to be confident and comfortable in the taking of pictures, which could be of things, situations that are sensitive to many people. And first of all, maintain safety at all times. And when we're taking the pictures, we generally do not want to identify people. We're looking to identify circumstances, like if there is a rundown or unsafe area at a park where children play, simply taking a picture of broken glass will convey a message that we want to convey. So we spend some time on this, and it's through, this is experiential learning, and that is powerful for people as we go through. We start off maybe not being quite sure how things are going to go, and we help each other to critique the photos we're taking. As the project starts, we go through an informed consent to explain the roles of participating and request consent and address any questions and ask for agreement before proceeding further after some orientation. Okay, so the next part I want to take you through starts out with this video. So let me let this video play. This is from the work of Dr. I believe Robert Strack at UNC Greensboro, and it gives an animation to explain photo voice. So please listen.
Hey, the mayor's here.
Glad to be here.
Did you take this photo?
Look at the picture over here.
This is our big night.
I can't believe what we did.
It's our first taste of hope, awareness, and action. A better community. We're on a good path now. Not that long ago, we didn't know this kind of hope was possible. It's not that things were really bad for us. We liked our community. Our friends are great, and we had no problem finding fun things to do.
Uncle Dave, can you catch me?
You bet.
It's just that there were always some things that didn't seem quite right. Issues never addressed, changes we didn't like. We saw ways to make our lives better.
I need that bus route to get to work on time.
Some kids use it to get to school.
But others didn't understand our city and neighborhood the way we did. Time went by and things got worse, and the bad feelings got stronger. Ignoring them was impossible. So we started talking to each other.
It really bothers my son.
Yeah, my daughter too.
And that helped a bit. But it didn't take long to see that talking wasn't enough.
Seriously, there's gotta be a better way.
We wanted things to change. No, we needed to make change happen.
Then one evening, a local reporter overheard us talking about our dreams to make our city better. He told us about Photo Voice, that a lot of people just like us are using it. They're learning how to use photos to tell their stories, educate others, and motivate action. That was an exciting moment for us. From there, we started to meet regularly, talk about issues, learn how to use cameras, and about how to responsibly take pictures of others. We started to photograph what we saw,
Bring your release form.
things we felt needed changing,
We need that shot for sure.
but also the things that made sense to us.
They need to see the stuff we like, too.
We shared our photos with each other,
Nice shot.
selected the ones that best told our story, and added words.
To get our message out, we needed a big event. So we began planning our public photo exhibit. We sent out invitations, put announcements in the paper, and called decision makers and the media. When the day of the event arrived, we were ready. And you know what? People showed up. We had no idea what to expect, but it's turning out to be an amazing night.
This was taken 2 weeks ago.
Our friends and neighbors, concerned citizens, decision makers, and the media, they are all here. This is so awesome. People are seeing what we see, and our city leaders are starting to take notice.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We need everyone to be part of the solution. Our photos are powerful illustrations of our concerns.
Giant prints on the wall in black and white and stark color.
Undeniable evidence. Yeah. We are raising awareness and encouraging others to take action. And the cool thing is, we know this is just the beginning. Photo Voice is now part of our lives. We'll continue to meet, document, and display. We know things will never be perfect. Bad feelings will show up now and then. But our experience has taught us that hope, awareness, and action are all part of Photo Voice. We are agents of change in our community. Find out how Photo Voice can help make your voice matter, and how you can be part of the solution.
Got it.
Thank you for watching. I'm putting another video in the chat that we used in our training with some of the youth called Health in My Hometown, a Youth Photo Voice Project. So please see that as you like. The resources that we assembled, which are common for a photo voice project. Our photo voice projects were largely virtual. One of them, I'm in New Jersey. I was able to meet in person with a youth partnership from Ocean County, New Jersey Family Support Organization. I was able to meet with them in person. We check with the participants to learn whether they have use of a camera, typically a cell phone camera, or in some instances, they may need to have a separate digital camera, so we were able to provide them. And a way to share information when we are not in person, and particularly, of course, on the virtual teams, a way to communicate with each other. And we used WhatsApp as well as our project website, which is in the link to that is in the chat. And the exhibits can be done in a digital format, of course, or a physical format. I will show you a few of them in a few moments, where we put the photos on a web page for our project and created some short videos. All right. So we review with the team some basic information on using the camera. So this is a collateral advantage to the youth who may be familiar with taking pictures, but may not have had specific instruction. To those youth who are interested, we made available mobile photography courses on udemy.com. We had gift certificates for them, and that also contributes significantly to the learning and youth development. Particularly exciting to get the interest of youth to be photojournalists in the making. Let's see. I think these are some of the topics that were considered for our project. Some of them are service related. Some of them are place related. American Sign Language was chosen by our Photo Voice team at the Youth Partnership in Ocean County, New Jersey. Many of the teams in East Africa focused on sanitation, accessibility, hygiene, regenerative farming, and other topics of universal interest were creating more autism-friendly spaces and libraries. Everyone wants access to local and community libraries. When you have them, you may take them for granted. When you do not, it is a strong desire to bring them into your community. Dr. McGladrey, I'd like to ask you to comment on what we want to encourage of the people who are their mindfulness in taking photos.
Yes, absolutely. When we're thinking about the pictures that we are bringing to conversation in Photo Voice, we either write out or as captions ahead of time before we share our photos, or we, as we're doing a show and tell live in those virtual sessions that Jerome described, folks are taking photos and explaining them in response to questions like the ones that you see on this slide. What did I photograph in the picture? What is this? What are we seeing here? Where did I take this picture? This is really important for those place-based topics in particular. And then the third prompt, why did I take that picture? So often you'll get people thinking and talking about how does that photo represent the topic that we illustrated, our research question for the project, but also why did I take that picture as a representation of my own lived experience and not just that topic, right? And then another element that we want to consider as we're taking photographs and thinking about captions for them is what do we want the person who's viewing the photo to understand through our frame of reference like we talked about before, and what message are we trying to convey? So all of those questions go into how folks are framing their photographs, taking their photographs, and then unpacking them and describing them and interpreting them in our photo groups.
Thank you. I'm going to give you a few examples of the projects that took place this summer. One is from the Youth Partnership in Ocean County, New Jersey. So what I'm showing on this slide here are some of the things that we keep in mind and want to communicate as we select photos. What I would tell the people that were participating in the project is get yourself involved by taking some pictures. And you don't have to know everything about where we're going with this when you first start with your photographs. We're going to bring them together and talk about it. And as we talk about it, we're going to select a title, a caption, maybe a narrative for it. Maybe we'll include it in a video. Typically, when the youth participants first get going, they know what their topic is. We did a multi-voting exercise. We brainstormed what the topics were. We came up with a few topics, and then we picked one to start with. And with the youth partnership, they selected American Sign Language. They were very concerned with inclusion of those youth and families that they knew of through their school experiences or community involvement, and felt that more could be done. So this was something where there was a strength of knowledge and representation and use of American Sign Language. And what the Youth Partnership wanted to do was enhance, expand, and have that develop more. So their topic was American Sign Language. And then as they went along and we had a few follow-up meetings, they would come up with titles and captions for how to annotate that photograph for use in an exhibit, and consider they're learning as they're doing this regarding how does framing come into play, and what does framing mean, and now it's starting to make more sense, and then we're coming up with a message that we want people to take away if they were to see the exhibit. Okay, another example is from the project in Yaoundé, Cameroon. And I liked this. This is a serious concern, of course, in the community sanitation. What I liked about this photo is that you see a building in the upper part here, and you see a stairway, and then you see a not too welcoming prelude to that stairway. And that is creating a health risk, and it's also creating a physical, whether eyesore or physical barrier, that in different dimensions. We're going to talk a little bit later about the different levels that we're affected by in our experience by being a part of a community at the individual level, interpersonal level, the organization level, and the larger community level. So here you see there's the framing, the ethics. We're striving not to identify anyone. We don't want to put an individual in the spotlight necessarily. We want to show a scene. Okay, and the topic, of course, here is sanitation, and the contrast, this says, I think, Fashion Plus on the building, and then the title, Trash is Not Fashionable. So seeing that contrast to how the lack of sanitation is just degrading to our community and health. The third example I want to share is about the Photo Voice project in Kasubi, Uganda. And the team met at a site, a physical site that is a landing area for people who earn their living through fishing. And we could see that there's not enough hygiene accommodations available to them. There's only one toilet or latrine for over 200 people. And clearly that needs, we draw attention to that, and hopefully, like nature abhors a vacuum, we get some attention in here. I would like to show, let's see if this is a good time, I think, what we ended up with for our project. So I'm going to ask Liz if you would put the link in again for this is the tool that we used to support our training. It's the youthr.org Photo Voice YTB page, and on here you can find the slides, if you don't already have them, a brochure, which we had translated to French by our team working in Yaoundé, which is largely French-speaking. These are the animations and other resources that we used in the training. And as you scroll down, you can see some of the points that we cover in the training. So I want to go over to the project page for Kasubi, the photograph that I was just showing. And Liz, if you could put that in, that's the cohorts/Kasubi page. And these are some of the pictures they took. So you can see, now we did not blur or hide all of the pictures here. Typically, if we're going to put them in a public exhibit, we will. These are just so that you could see some of the people who are involved in the project. And you can see the captioning, titling, explanation and description of where the photos were taken, why they were taken, along with the title and the connection into the community. So I'd like to play 2 short videos. They're 30 seconds each. This one is for Kasubi. So this is where we were extending our experience with Photo Voice to go from digital photo exhibits into a little bit of video. So get this started. So we're very proud of the progress that they made. In some of the pictures you can see they took the project out to the point of meeting people in the community. This individual is the chairman who's in charge of running the fishing site, and he was impressed that the youth wanted to be part of making improvements and change in the community. The next short video I want to show is going back to the Youth Partnership in Ocean County, New Jersey. Liz, if you would put in a link to the Cohorts Ocean page. This was their project page, and they have links for training information, photo uploading, and caption uploading, where they could edit the form as they gather more information. So let's take a look at the fun they were having with their project. So it was a pleasure to work with them, and they I think had some fun with the project. So thank you to Youth Partnership, Ocean County, New Jersey. On the slides that you have, you see some of the other work going on in East Africa, this one in Nabudi, Uganda, where the youth their topic was youth opportunity and advocating for community workspaces where youth can learn sculpture and edit and welding skills. And in Kisumu, Kenya, where this is showing an individual doing an awful lot of work individually, where in a community where there's mutual support, that would lighten the load, literally and figuratively. A photo I particularly liked because of the photo skills demonstrated in here, where you have the foregrounding and backgrounding, you have the careful planting of the sapling or the crop here. You see the building in the background. Of course, the picture, there's no identification in it. This is something that we want to encourage and enhance, the use of regenerative farming. Okay, so we're going into the third part of the way we organized our work. And as we're taking the photos, we gather to have a meeting amongst the team so that we get a representation of the collective mindsight or insights on what each other was seeing in here. So I want to ask Dr. McGladrey to offer her guidance here on why this may be, it's all important, but sort of really is a, I don't know, a crux or pivot for what's going to go into the call to action. Dr. McGladrey.
Thanks, Jerome. So I think we all know in this day and age, many of us, of course, digital divide prevents some of us from having this kind of access, but many of us are photographers day in and day out with these smartphones, right? And Photo Voice isn't just sharing our individual points of view. That is absolutely essential and important in capturing and empowering different forms of lived experience, but we're not content to simply share individuals' perspectives. We want to come together and share what we see from our own individual point of view in a collective kind of group, so that we can come to a group understanding of what the images show and what they mean. And most importantly, as Jerome alluded to, what that means we should do and who needs to be at the table to take action. So that action taking, change making step of Photo Voice is only possible if we move from that individual me into that collective we, and begin to understand all of our collective photos that we bring to the table from this shared standpoint. So really critical for us to be able to move from that individual level to the group conversation, to come to that good understanding of what our action steps are going to be, how to most ethically and accurately represent our point of view, and then create that collective standpoint or collective identity that allows us to say, this isn't just me, this is other people in my community like me who are seeing this in this way.
Thank you. And as part of that discussion, we have some guidelines that we request a shared agreement on, so that people, again, maintain safety, emotional, psychological, physical safety, confidentiality, and we want to speak from firsthand experience without judgment. And one of the takeaways that I like very much from the initial training that Dr. McGladrey provided, that I've committed to memory, is the step up when it's important to give your input, step back when it's time to let others. So that's just a nice ebb and flow and support for getting everyone involved, which is also going back to speaking truth to power and co-production and just shared input to a collective effort. We go through another round of this is how we approached it, of ethics for the photo selection. As we know in learning, hearing something once is generally not sufficient. If something is new that we're learning, we get some maybe superficial understanding, we practice with it, we have that experiential learning, and then we go back to fundamentals. Okay, we're looking at these photos now, and we intended to be mindful of ethical considerations. So let's check ourselves on that, because we're going to put together a better exhibit, and we're going to be better practitioners of photo voice if we non-judgmentally or with constructive criticism support each other in and learn with and from each other in this experience. Okay, and ultimately we're pretty set with what our topics are. That's relatively easy from the beginning part. And then we're coming down to titling and captioning and reviewing, letting other people see it. Is there a simple, more powerful way to say it? And it's kind of fun. I had some fun with the group in Ocean County when we were, and it's okay to be silly here. To get people to relax and enjoy and come up with what they think is the best way to say it. I think one of our silly moments in the youth partnership group was with pineapples, that we wanted to put the word pineapple in every statement. But as you can see, we decided to leave it out here. Okay. I'm going back to Dr. McGladrey. I want her to tell you about how the social ecological model comes into play. My understanding is that the origin for this model or diagram goes back about 50 years to the work of Urie Bronfenbrenner. So Dr. McGladrey.
Thank you. And the socio-ecological model, as you see here from the reference down at the bottom, Strack et al. 2000, has been used extensively in different kinds of photo voice projects because it's really helpful as we're analyzing the images that we've taken, the captions that we're writing to represent our perspective and what we want to do with it, to be able to think about that data at different levels of this socio-ecological model that really gives us a sense of what are the factors that influence health behavior and the environments in which we live and flourish. So the socio-ecological model gives us these 4 different levels here where we're considering how our topic or the image that we're sharing or the conversation that we're having, how it speaks to the individual level of impact. And this is, of course, individual knowledge, attitudes, behaviors, and the ways in which those are nested into our interpersonal relationships, not only with our family and friends, but also professional and collegial kinds of relationships. Those interpersonal relationships are then nested within organizational impacts, all the ways that our individual knowledge, attitudes, and behaviors and our relationships are situated by and constrained by organizational expectations. And that's everything from how our schools work to how policy making works to how health systems work. And then at the community and societal level of impact, we're considering the influences of how systems work together, as well as different kinds of policies and resources and financing shape our organizational, interpersonal, and individual practices. So when we're looking at our topic and the images and the conversation that we're having, the socio-ecological model helps us to really pinpoint what level of change we're looking at making or what level of analysis we're doing here together. And again, as you see here, Strack, our producer of the video that you saw earlier, also developed this version of the socio-ecological model. They really go hand in hand together as an explanatory way of framing up your results and thinking about what you're going to be recommending as action steps to your audience.
Thank you. So as the prelude to coming up with a photo voice exhibit or display, we're at this is what we're calling in our project the end of phase 3. There are different ways that you can design or describe how you go through the Photo Voice project experience. This was an easy way for us to manage it. And so I encourage the teams to pick 3 to 6 photos. We may end up taking 50, but we come to understand that that's too much for anyone to process or look at or get the attention of. So we want to pick the ones that make the point and make sure we have look to have a good title, a caption. And we had some fun with playing games. So I love working with youth because it's always okay to laugh and play games and make learning fun with the call to action. So if some of the youth had not been familiar with that phrase or some of the other, there's a few terms that we might use in our project, I would put them on a flip chart, display board, whiteboard with the underscores for the missing letters, and we would guess letters for what those words are, and then someone would shout out, "Oh, it's call to action." Okay, and then we would talk about, well, what's a call to action? So in the work with youth, we want to make sure that from their perspective that they have a way of expressing what it is that is happening in their world, what they want to change, and how they would describe. Maybe they wouldn't call it a call to action. Maybe they would call it something else. So that's fine too. And what we recognized is that I would ask people, which photos can you not forget? We don't remember maybe what we want to remember. We remember what we cannot forget. So if you looked at 10, 15, 20 photos, some of them stay in your mind. Which ones are those? They might be pretty powerful. And let's write a paragraph or a caption, or we might notice a theme. And what response do we want from someone who is moved by what they're seeing? What action? Okay, so this takes us into the last part of both our training or our training and our presentation session here of the Photo Voice exhibit and the call to action. So Liz, if you would just repeat these links again in the chat for our Photo Voice webpage, and you can see up in the menu for the 6 projects that were participating with us in Photo Voice Summer 2024. The call to action. So Dr. McGladrey, I'd like to ask you to comment a little bit again in this part for the call to action. And we're coming up with a story, a digital story. And if you would like to share any thoughts here.
Yes, absolutely. So a broader thought here too, as I'm talking about the different options that you see on this slide, is that Photo Voice is certainly a method of participatory action research. But as you've heard Jerome discuss, there are a lot of different adaptations that can be made when you're facilitating it, given who the group is and where they are, different levels of familiarity with technology, literacy, all of those different pieces. So it is a well-established method, but not one that requires you to follow prescriptive steps, right? You can use a lot of different kinds of technologies and facilitation strategies to accomplish the 3 goals of Photo Voice around documenting our realities, talking about why they exist, and what do we need to do to address them. So in the call to action, the typical traditional photo voice exhibit is something like what you saw with the video earlier, where you have posters and large displays of photos and captions displayed in some kind of gallery space, and decision makers are invited to come to those kinds of one-off events, right? And you see kind of images representing what that could look like. The trouble is that's not necessarily the environment in which influence and inspiration, empowerment necessarily comes, because you're creating an artificial environment of saying, hey, decision makers, come to this exhibit and then do what with it, right? So there's a lot of different calls right now in the literature for embedding photo voice into action and policy generating spaces. So it isn't this kind of one-off exhibit that's disconnected from other policy making and programming kinds of activities. So that's the beauty of photo voice in the context of youth time banking, right? Is it's a resource that allows the different teams to be able to document what they're doing, share their story, and develop additional kinds of assets, resources, and energy around that narrative, right? So, but any exhibit, regardless of what format is going to take, is going to involve photos and captions, and you're making posters, designing web pages, videos, presentations, slideshows, and then you can also be creative in thinking about audio components to go alongside it, an audio recording, podcast, or blog post. But we always want to have different kinds of representations of both the images, maybe through videos and still pictures, and the story through our voices and through words.
Thank you. We have about 10 minutes left in our session, and I want to ask Ken McGill maybe to select some questions that we might open up for conversation if anyone who's joining with us today would like to ask or talk about. These last few slides here are a summary of what we've covered, and you get photo voice on one page here for, and Liz, if you would put in the link again to maybe the brochures, if you can pull out the specific link, and the flyer that we used to introduce to our project teams several months ago when we first started exploring the prospect of having a project. So it's from some of those links that were shared before. So these are the key points, the 3 goals. You want to provide a voice, share awareness, influence change, record community strengths and concerns, use photo voice to build social connections. And that's what's the purpose of youth time banking, is to build strengths and social connections. We follow ethics in photography and discussion. We use concepts from framing and frame analysis. And the way of thinking about what's going on in the photo voice method is that we're organizing a team, we're selecting a topic, we're taking photographs, we're having conversations about them. And I like to use the word dialogue, that we want to both inquire and share and understand. We're not interested so much, at least initially, in debating but in making sure we understand each other's perspective, and then combining the photos, words, and media into a story to share that has some emotion in it, because it typically takes emotion to change minds. If you want to have fun with the quiz, you can click on the links here. We put in a sampling of some of the questions to help reinforce the learning objectives for our session today. So please check that to reinforce what you've heard, if this is all totally new. And if you go onto our YTB mobile app, you can earn a badge. All right, our Photo Voice project web is here, and that will also, some of the interior links there take you to the Photo Voice brochure that we have in French and English, and we're having some people in Spain review it for a Spanish language and also from Portugal for a Portuguese language version. Here's what happens. Here's kind of why we do Photo Voice with Youth, because youth builds strengths. So what we know in over the 3, 4, 5 months of youth participation, community action, participatory research, that the youth have built strengths. Their confidence, if I were to say, what is the, one thing that stands out, it's confidence. Confidence is strength. It gives you courage. These youth know how to do planning and organizing. They are diplomats. It's critical thinking, teamwork, social connections are made, public awareness is increased, and the youth are the leaders. And they're seen as such by community leaders. There's a link to some of these projects here. Liz, if you have some of the more recent links, you could put that in. We were all part of a World Report meeting conducted by a community organization in Madrid, Spain last week, and our article was published. This is a summary of what we've covered and what we did in how we managed our project with orientation, practice, dialogue, and exhibit. These are some resources, some of Dr. McGladrey's work here. Dr. McGladrey, would you like to?
Can I just jump in? I don't mean to interrupt. I got a direct question, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Someone said in terms of what the next steps, they'd like to hear from the YTB Kasubi and the New Jersey Family Support Organization, if that's possible. That was a beautifully written question.
Okay. I'm going to give 1 minute each. I'm going to ask Precious Mbabazi, are you able to come off mute and talk with us about where things are going? You're still on mute though. Can you come off mute, Precious? Okay, thank you.
Yes, Jerome.
Hello. It's exciting to talk to you in this meeting, Precious.
Thank you.
Can you tell us where you see things going with what happens next with the work at the fishing site?
The fishing sites, people there, especially the chairman, are ready to work with us. Pardon?
Yes. Please tell us also what happened at the last day of August when a group of you went out and you brought something for the community. Please share that.
Yeah, we went to the fishing sites. We found our ladies who were not. We distributed reusable pads to them, which were made by our own colleague, Denise. We went to the fishing site. Since we had gone there to clean, we found the situation was not good for them. So we had to come back, sit as a team, and see what we can do for them. So we decided to make reusable pads and distribute them at the landing site for ladies. It was really a good experience with them.
Thank you. Do you think you'll go back and meet with the chairman of the fishing site sometime in the future to talk about other things like cleaning up the area of the litter and getting another latrine? Will you have other conversations?
Yes, we are planning to go there and also get a review from what we did at that fishing site the last time we were there. We want to go back, talk to the chairman more, and also get a review of what we did there and how we can increase our relationship with the people at the fishing sites.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Precious is in Kasubi, Uganda right now. I'd like to ask for a representative from Ocean County Youth Partnership, Family Support Organization. Is someone in our session, Denise or Mary? Are you
I'm
joined with?
Mary. I'm here.
Hi, Mary.
My camera is off, though.
Okay. Could you please give us some comments about the awareness raising with American Sign Language and how the youth are affected by their photo voice participation?
I will say, so the American Sign Language was brought on by like one of our youth, right? But then we all collectively decided that was going to be our topic. And in, picking that topic, I will say that we definitely, like, the kids, like, brought in their like knowledge of what it's like to be, to need ASL, you know what I mean? And like, we did a lot of training. The kids went to a training. They spoke with someone that is hard of hearing. So they learned, how you should, communicate. How do you get their attention? What is something that they need in the community? And then it just kind of, like we said, it raised their awareness of, like, when we went out to places and we're like, oh my God, like, look at this, look at that. They need American Sign Language here. So, then they started talking about awareness in their schools, right? And how they can change, and go to the district and, for the youth that may need it in their classes and stuff. So it really raised their awareness of overall, and really they wanted to make change with that. So
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. I think once youth start to feel courageous and confident, there's no going back.
Yeah. Okay. And I noticed the kids that were kind of quiet in the beginning were the ones that, like, at the end were really involved and really, like, working on the project. So it was a great experience overall for them.
Thank you, Mary. Dr. McGladrey, I want to ask you to bring our plane in for a landing. I'll leave it on this last page. It's representing some of the work going on at the IF Center, and your closing thoughts for us with Photo Voice.
Thank you so much, Jerome. I feel ill-suited to put a bow on that beautiful presentation and all of the contributions and wonderful work that it represents. But I think that's the point of Photo Voice, right? Is that every time we interact with these products and with these stories and with these conversations, it creates the next round of momentum for further conversations. Claudia Mitchell, one of the scholars of Photo Voice, talks about the importance of, like, circulating these products. So it's not just doing the conversation and work in a one-time dissemination event, but how do we keep these products in circulation, in conversation, to keep increasing awareness and connecting the dots between what some of us see in our communities and what others choose not to see. So I encourage you all, if you're interested in exploring Photo Voice as a tool for youth empowerment, yes, exactly, TCOM in action, youth empowerment, building rapport with young people. I've also done Photo Voice trainings on using Photo Voice in case management kinds of contexts. I really encourage you to be in touch and see what Jerome has put out in the chat. Please share your name and email if you see any potential for Photo Voice in your organization, and we would love to talk with you more about it. Thank you all so much for your time. And let's all just thank you so much to all of the participants in Photo Voice YTB, all of their amazing contributions, their confidence and empowerment, and being able to share their voice and better their communities through their perspective, their assets, resources, and energy.
Thank you, Dr. McGladrey. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for joining our session